Hello, my name is Miguel Gonzalez. I am a software engineer and also a host of GameDevLondon. Absolutely. Since I'm a little kid, I always sat in front of the computer, and I still remember my dad having this very old computer with 166 megahertz, with 16 MB of RAM, and it used to run Settlers 3, Heroes of Might and Magic, and Command & Conquer. These were the games where I grew up with, basically. And since then, I could never stop playing, really. My biggest success so far in terms of gaming was when I launched my YouTube channel. And initially I started it just to get some experience with video editing and with sound design, and overall to just share what I'm working on. But I got a lot of people who are really interested in what I'm doing, and I would have never expected that to happen, really. And I'd say that's the biggest accomplishment so far I've done so far, yeah. To do my own YouTube channel that is focused on game development and on me showing how I build games, I would say it was quite tough initially because I completely underestimated the amount of time you need to invest in creating these videos. And after my second devlog, I think, I had a little low because I thought, wow, this is crazy how much time you need to put in there, and from a viewer perspective, this is not visible to you. You just see, I don't know, a 10-minute video, and that was really challenging initially, but you get used to it. Yes, definitely. I still remember creating a game project many years ago, and in that project I attempted to generate an infinite universe with economics and planets and conflicts, all that jazz. And unfortunately, due to my lack of experience in both software engineering and in game design, I really struggled to finish that project, and I actually had to abandon it. And to this day I kind of regret that I never picked it up again, but you never know what the future holds. It really depends on the game, I would say. I can see now certain patterns of game design or game mechanics to, for example, grab the attention of the player more and pulling off some psychological tricks to actually keep the player engaged. And sometimes it makes it more difficult for me to actually get immersed with the game. But some other games, especially that are more focused around storytelling, that really blew me away and kept me engaged massively. And I completely forgot that I'm a game developer, and I even forgot that I'm a gamer, and I just got immersed in the world. And I think these experiences are the ones why we actually play games, to get immersed in this world and to be completely consumed by it. I'm personally not a professional game developer, and I build my games basically alone, and this allows me to focus all my work on it alone, and I actually don't need to worry about that too much. However, it's difficult for me to prioritize sometimes what I want to work on, because I build my games, I have my YouTube channel, and it's sometimes very difficult to prioritize what requires more attention at a given time. But generally I don't have this issue. That's, I think, a very difficult question, but I would say in overall feeling and game design and how it impacted actually the gaming world, I would say it's Dark Souls. Dark Souls for me was really an eye-opener in terms of how you actually do storytelling in the world. I understand Dark Souls is not very approachable to many, especially because it has requires a lot of attention by the player to actively try not to get killed, but generally the world building, the world design, and also the meta layers of that game are just phenomenal. Yeah. Ooh, that's a good question. I definitely want to see Geralt of Rivia. I definitely want to see him fight the Taurus demon from Dark Souls. That's definitely a fight I want to see. Pixel art is an art style where you draw pixels on a very limited space or canvas. And the idea behind pixel art is to limit yourself in terms of colors and also in terms of resolution. And I personally really like doing that because it allows you to have a very cheap process where you can create quickly assets for your game without spending hours and hours 3D modeling or drawing a very high resolution picture. And it really helped me initially to create games quicker, but out of that laziness grew some kind of passion where now I experienced an entire new level of pixel art itself. So you can really push it to a level where it's very difficult to get there initially, but when you practice and learn all the tricks you also get from classic drawing, you can really push your pixel art to the next level. I started learning pixel art by watching lots of YouTube tutorials and reading up on it, and also liking and looking at a lot of pixel art online. So for example, on Instagram and on Twitter there are amazing pixel artists, and I always wanted to reach that kind of level in terms of pixel art style. And what I basically then did was doing pixel dailies. So the idea is every day you create a pixel art piece, not with the idea of creating the most amazing artwork, but basically just to learn and to practice your skills. And this really helped me a lot. To create pixel art, you can use Paint. So you can just use Paint to create pixel art. You can also use Photoshop. However, there are dedicated tools that are built purposefully for making pixel art for games. And one tool I use is Sprite. So Sprite really allows me to create things like animations and layers and different types of animations and sprite sheets quite easily. Obviously, it's up to you what you use. At the end of the day, it's just a tool, and it really doesn't matter what tool you use. You should use the tool you feel personally most comfortable with. Before you actually start doing pixel art for your game, you should know what type of game you want to create and what the resolution should be. So one thing to consider is try to make pixel perfect games. What do I mean by that? Every pixel on the screen should have the same size. And by pixel, I don't mean the screen pixel, but actually the pixel of your sprite. Because obviously, when you zoom in, a pixel might consist of multiple screen pixels when you enlarge the sprite on the screen. By following that, you need to be careful what you select for a sprite size. So for example, if your character is 32 by 32 pixels, you can't then have another character that is 64 by 64 and then have them the same size in game, because then the pixel ratios will look off. And always aim to try to keep the pixel sizes consistent across the board. Another thing you should be aware of is how you want to have animations to play out. The less pixels you have available, the more emphasis you need to put on animation. And it's actually easier to animate things that have less pixels because you can create and iterate much quicker. However, it is much more difficult to pick the right location for each pixel because it's very easy on a low resolution pixel art piece that an animation may look completely off by placing a pixel wrong, where on a larger scale pixel art piece, for example 64 by 64, if you place a pixel wrong, it might not immediately catch the viewer's eye. Also, in terms of pipeline, you need to be aware of how do you actually want your process to look like when starting to create your pixel art piece and then importing it into the game engine of your choice and then using it in the game engine. So my personal workflow looks like that. I open Sprite, I create the basic animation, and then I export it as a horizontal stripe. What this allows me to do basically is that I can have a quick workflow where I export animations and the engine automatically picks it up and I don't need to do anything else, and that's amazing. For my games I use Godot Engine, And Godot Engine is amazing. It's open source. Version 3.3 just released. It has amazing features, and especially for 2D, it is a powerhouse in terms of tile mapping and in terms of creating 2D games very quickly. The things when you start with pixel art in Godot Engine is you always need to disable filters on the imported sprites. If you don't do that, it will blur them and it looks super weird. So always do that. Also, you need to have a camera zoom in, and in your project settings, you need to set the scaling to 2D. Otherwise, it looks a bit off. So you need to make sure that the camera zooms in properly and that the pixels are actually large.